जय हिंद दोस्तों, फिर से आपका स्वागत है हमारे इस वाजीराम एंड रवि के प्रीलिम्स क्विक रिवीजन सीरीज़ में, जो कि 2024 का है। यह क्विक रिवीजन सीरीज़ पार्ट 1 है और आप लोग जानते होंगे एग्ज़ाम 26 मई को होने वाला था, जो अब डिले हो गया है। तो यह हमारा एक मास्टर वीडियो होगा, जो कि करीब 2 सवा 2 घंटे का होगा। इसमें हम लोग पहले के 3 वीडियो लेक्चर को कंपाइल करके आपके लिए एक मास्टर वीडियो बनाएंगे। तो अगर आप लोग पहले के वीडियोज़ नहीं देखें तो उसे जाकर देखिए, और पहले के मास्टर वीडियोज़ अगर आप लोग नहीं देखें तो उसे भी जाकर देखिए। उससे आपका रिवीजन बहुत अच्छे से हो सकेगा। और आपसे बस ये अनुरोध है कि अगर आप लोग हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं और अभी तक हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया, तो प्लीज़ 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 इसे सब्सक्राइब करके हमें सपोर्ट करें, क्योंकि आपके सपोर्ट की हमें बहुत आवश्यकता पड़ती है और इसी से हम प्रोत्साहित होकर और अच्छे वीडियो आपके लिए बनाकर लाते हैं। तो वीडियो को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर करें उन लोगों तक जो इस बार का यूपीएससी या फिर 17th बीपीएससी या फिर यूपीपीसीएस देने वाले हैं, उन तक इस वीडियो को जरूर पहुँचाएँ, क्योंकि इनके एग्जाम में भी करंट अफेयर की बहुत अहम भूमिका रहती है। तो करंट अफेयर की तैयारी यहाँ से आसानी से हो जाएगी। तो आइए शुरू करते हैं हमारा आज का मास्टर वीडियो, जो कि कंपाइलेशन होगा पिछले हमारे 3 वीडियोज़ का। तो शुरू करते हैं। जय हिंद दोस्तों, फिर से आपका स्वागत हमारे इस वाजीराम एंड रवि के प्रीलिम्स रिवीजन सीरीज़ में। यह 2024 का है और यह पहला पार्ट है, जो मई से लेकर दिसंबर 2023 तक का पूरा संस्करण है। और आप लोग को एग्ज़ाम होगा कि डेट मालूम होगा, एग्ज़ाम का डेट 26 मई 2024 है। और हम लोग का यह कंटिन्यू सीरीज़ रहेगा। तो हम लोगों ने कई सारे सेक्शंस कर लिए थे। पॉलिटी एंड गवर्नेंस इज़ ऑलमोस्ट ओवर, ऑलमोस्ट का मतलब ख़त्म ही हो गया था। और फिर हम लोग इंटरनेशनल रिलेशन कर रहे थे। तो आपसे बस ये अनुरोध है कि अगर आप लोग हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं और अभी तक हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया, तो प्लीज़ 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 इसे सब्सक्राइब करके हमें सपोर्ट करें और वीडियो को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर करें उन लोगों तक जो इस बार का यूपीएससी प्री देने वाले हैं, ताकि उनके करंट अफेयर की तैयारी अच्छे से हो सके और वो भी करंट अफेयर में अपने आप को सहज महसूस करवा सकें। वीडियो को देखते रहे। और इसके साथ हम लोगों ने विजन आईएएस का पॉलिटिकल 365 किया हुआ है, इन्वायरमेंट का किया हुआ है और इकोनॉमिक्स का हम लोगों ने कर लिया। तो आप लोग अगर उसे नहीं देखे तो उसे भी जाकर देखिए और अपनी एग्ज़ाम की तैयारी को और मजबूत कीजिए। क्या आप लोग को यह वीडियो कैसा लग रहा है, हमारी यह पहल कैसी लग रही है, इसके बारे में अगर आपको कोई जानकारी या कोई भी तरह का सजेशन देना होगा तो आप लोग कमेंट बॉक्स में जरूर जाइए और हमें सजेशन दीजिए। तो आइए शुरू करते हैं आज का हमारा सीरीज़, जो कि जहाँ हम लोगों ने पिछले वीडियो लेक्चर में छोड़ा था वहीं से आज हम लोग कंटिन्यू करने वाले हैं। तो आइए शुरू करते हैं आज का हमारा टॉपिक। आज का हमारा टॉपिक यहाँ पे है, ये यहाँ से आ गया, इजराइल फ़लस्तीन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट। तो शुरू करते हैं। Recently, the United Nations General Assembly (UNGA) passed a resolution that asked the International Court of Justice (ICJ) to render its opinion on the legal consequences of Israel's prolonged occupation of Palestine land. International Court of Justice क्या है? तो ICJ. The ICJ is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations (UN). It was established in 1945 by the Charter of the United Nations and began work in April 1946. The seat of the court is at the Peace Palace in the Hague, Netherlands. It is the only one of the 6 principal organ of the UN that is located in the New York City. English and French are the ICJ's official language. Role क्या है? To settle in accordance with international law, legal disputes submitted it by state, and to give advisory opinion on legal question referred to it by authorized UN organ and specialized agencies. Member of jurisdiction of ICJ कौन कौन सा है? तो all member of UN are automatically participating in the ICJ statutory. However, this does not automatically give the ICJ jurisdiction over dispute involving them. The ICJ get jurisdiction only if both parties consent to it. The judgment of the ICJ is final and technically binding on the parties to a case. There is no provision of appeal. It can at the most by subject to interpretation on or upon the discovery of new fact या revision. The ICJ has no way to ensure compliance of its order, and its authority is driven from the willingness of the countries to abide by them. Israel Palestine conflict क्या है? तो Israel Palestine conflict date back at the end of 19th century. In 1947, the United Nations adopted Resolution 181, known as the Partition Plan, which sought to divide the British Mandate of Palestine into Arab and Jewish states. Palestine was a part of Ottoman Empire, later became part of British Empire. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was created, sparking the first Arab-Israeli war. The war ended in 1949 with Israel's victory, but many Palestinians were displaced and the territory was divided into 3 parts: the State of Israel, the West Bank of the Jordan River, and the Gaza Strip. In another war in 1969, also known as Six-Day War, Israel occupied East Jerusalem and the West Bank, as well as most of the Syrian Golan Heights, Gaza and the Egyptian Sinai Peninsula. Yom Kippur War क्या है? तो the Yom Kippur War or the October War of the Ramadan War was fought between Israel on the one side and Egypt and Syria on the other from October 6 to 25, 1973. Yom Kippur is the holiest day of Jerusalem and Samarthanism. It is also known as the Day of Atonement. It is observed on the 10th day of lunar month of Tishri, which falls in September or yearly October. It is also called the fourth Arab-Israeli War, coming after three wars in 1949, 1956 and 1967. Iron Dome क्या है? तो it is a short-range ground-to-air air defense system that includes a radar and Tamir interceptor missiles that track and neutralize any rocket or missile aimed at Israeli target. It is used for continuing rocket, artillery and mortar, CRAM, as well as aircraft, helicopters and unmanned aerial vehicles. The Iron Dome was deployed in 2011. While Rafael claimed its success rate of over 90% with more than 2,000 interceptions, except expert agrees the success rate is over 80%. Next topic is NATO Plus. A UN Congressional Committee recently recommended strengthening NATO Plus by including India into the 5-member grouping. About NATO Plus क्या है? तो it is a grouping of North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO and 5 countries including Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Israel and South Korea. What is North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO क्या है? तो it is a transatlantic alliance of 31 like-minded North American and European countries. It was established by the North Atlantic Treaty, also known as Washington Treaty, on April 4, 1949. Aim क्या था? To protect peace and to guarantee the territorial integrity, political independence and security of the member state. Article 5 of the treaty क्या है? तो if an armed attack occur against one of the member state, it should be considered an attack against all members, and other members shall assist the attacked member with armed forces if necessary. हेडक्वार्टर इसका है ब्रुसेल्स, बेल्जियम में. नेक्स्ट है इनोवेटिव फाइनेंस फैसिलिटी फॉर क्लाइमेट इन एशिया एंड पैसिफिक, IFCAP. ABD announces innovative financial initiative for climate in Asia and Pacific, IFCAP. गोल क्या है? to accelerate climate action in Asia and Pacific. मल्टी डोनर फाइनेंसिंग पार्टनरशिप क्या है? तो IFCAP aim to scale up finance for climate action in Asia Pacific. इनिशियल पार्टनर क्या है? तो डेनमार्क, जापान, कोरिया, स्वीडन, UK एंड US. लैंडमार्क प्रोग्राम क्या है? फर्स्ट ऑफ इट्स काइंड फॉर अ मल्टीलैटरल डेवलपमेंट बैंक. अगला है वर्ल्ड बैंक प्रेसिडेंट. इंडियन ओरिजिन अजय भांगा was confirmed as the next president of World Bank. About World Bank Group क्या है? तो WB is an international financial institution that provides loan and grants to the government of low and middle income developing countries for the purpose of pursuing capital projects. It was established along with the IMF at the 1944 Bretton Woods Conference. The WB is the collective name for the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, and International Development Association, IDA, 2 of 5 international organizations owned by the WB Group. The WB Group, which is the partner organization of WB, includes कौन कौन से? तो पहला है IBRD. It provides loan, credit and grants. Next is IDA. It provides loan or no interest loan to low income countries. International Finance Corporation, IFC क्या है? तो it provides investment, advice and asset management to private companies and government. Multilateral Guarantee Agency, MIGA. It ensures leaders and investors against political risk such as war. Next is International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes, ICSID. It settles investment dispute between investor and countries. What is the leadership of WB क्या है? तो the president of WB, who is the president of entire World Bank Group, is responsible for chairing meeting of the board of director and for overall management of the bank. Traditionally, the president of bank has always been a US citizen nominated by the US, the largest shareholder of the bank. The nominee is subject to confirmation by the board of executive director to serve a 5-year renewal term. The board of directors consists of WB Group President and 25 executive directors. The president is the presiding officer and originally has no vote except to break a tie. The executive director as individual cannot exercise any power or commit or represent the bank unless the board specifically authorized them to do so. ILA International Organization of Migration IOM. Amy Pope has been elected next Director General of International Organization of Migration. Established in 1951, IOM is the leading intergovernmental organization in the field of migration and works closely with the governmental, intergovernmental and non-governmental partners. History क्या है तो it was born in 1951 out of the chaos and displacement of Western Europe following the Second World War. Status क्या है तो IOM was guaranteed permanent observer status of the UN General Assembly in 1992 and a cooperation agreement between IOM and the UN was signed in 1996. Members क्या है तो with 175 member states including India and each state holding observer status and officers in over 100 countries. IOM is dedicated to promoting humane and orderly migration for the benefit of all. India is the member of IOM. 66 Indian Ocean Conference IOC. The 6th edition of Indian Ocean Conference IOC is being held in India. Foundation is in association with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Bangladesh and S. Rajanatnam School of International Studies. What is Indian or Ocean Regime? IOR क्या है तो IOR is a geographical region that encompasses the Indian Ocean and its surrounding areas, including the littoral state and islands. The region spans from the African coast in the west to the Australia coast in the east, and from the Arabian Peninsula and the Persian Gulf in the north to the southern coast of Sri Lanka and Australia in the south. The Indian Ocean is the world's third largest ocean, covering an area of approximately 70.6 million square kilometers. यहाँ आप लोग ग्राफ में देख सकते हैं इंडियन ओशन रीजन में क्या है तो यहाँ इंडिया हो जाएगा, फिर उधर पर्शियन गल्फ हो जाएगा, हॉर्न ऑफ अफ्रीका, ईस्टर्न अफ्रीका, सदर्न अफ्रीका, साउथ वेस्ट इंडियन ओशन आइलैंड्स जिसे मडागास्कर हो जाएगा, फिर सदर्न इंडियन ओशन आइलैंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया, फिर इधर इंडोनेशिया हो जाएगा, बर्मा हो जाएगा, मलेशिया हो जाएगा, दिस टाइप ऑफ कंट्री ब्रुनेई आइलैंड हो जाएगा. तो यह पूरा एसोसिएशन है. फिर it is home to several important sea land of communication including the Strait of Malacca, Strait of the Suez Canal and the Bab al-Medin Strait, and connect Asia, Europe and Africa. Silkworm eating strategy. The plant type 054 frigate Ma Ansham recorded operating New Taiwan in August 2022 by ROCN destroyer Ma Kong. The Chinese equivalent to the Western notion of salami slicking tactics is the idea of silkworm eating. The essence of this strategy lie in achieving success through slow and steady process, metamorphically linked to the way a silkworm eat a mulberry leaf instead of resorting to forceful annexation. Visit by PM Modi to Egypt. PM Modi began his maiden state visit to Egypt by holding discussion with the Indian unit in the Egyptian cabinet. Key highlight of the visit क्या है तो India unit is headed by Prime Minister of Egypt Mustafa Madbouly and compares the number of ministers and senior officers. This was the first bilateral visit by an Indian Prime Minister to the country in 26 years. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi conferred Modi with Order of the Nile Award, the country's highest state honor. PM visited his historic 11th century Al-Hakim Mosque in Cairo, which was restored with the help of India's Dawoodi Bohra community. The Dawoodi Bohra Muslims are a set of followers of Islam who adhere to the Fatimi Islami Tayyibi school of thought. They were known to have originated from Egypt and later shifted to Yemen before establishing a presence in India in the 11th century. PM visits Heliopolis War ceremony in Cairo to pay respect to Indian soldiers who laid down their lives during the World War I. Next is Modi's state visit to USA. PM Modi was an official state visit to USA. This was the first state visit of the country. Key outcome of the bilateral talk between the Indian PM and the President of USA क्या क्या है? पहला jet engine tech transfer. There was an announcement of a mega deal between the General Electric Aerospace and the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited for the manufacture under license in India of GE's F414 engine. The engine will be manufactured for the indigenous light combat aircraft LCA Tejas Mk2 inaugural session of an innovation platform called India-US State Defense Association Acceleration Ecosystem IndusX. Under it, Indian and American startups will now be able to co-develop and co-produce advanced technologies, including in areas of space, artificial intelligence. India-US Cancer Dialogue will be launched on November 2023 and the US-India Health Dialogue in October 2023 in Washington, D.C. The two sides will collaborate to bring together startup, private equities and venture capital firms to build linkage between the two countries' innovation ecosystem. ICET is a framework for India and US to collaborate on critical and emerging technologies. Setting up of Global Challenge Institute to strengthen research and sustainable energy, agriculture, health and pandemic preparedness. Reiterated their strain on building resilient global semiconductor supply chain. In a signal that highlights the two countries' growing distance from China, India also supported its US RIP and Replace pilot project. This project mandates the American companies steer out telecom equipment made by the Chinese companies Huawei and ZTE. This move has already been implemented by New Delhi as part of its 5G launch. Both sides also welcomed the signing of an agreement between the Bharat 6G Alliance and Next G Alliance as the first step toward deepening public-private cooperation between vendor and operator. The Bharat 6G Alliance is a public-private sector initiative was formed after the PM said India would launch the next generation high-speed network by 2030. It has all the three telecoms Jio, Airtel and VI as member along with the companies like Tech Mahindra. Other outcome of the visit क्या है तो announcement regarding New Delhi joining the Artemis Accord. Both the leaders applauded the conclusion of second master ship repair agreement. About Artemis Accord क्या है तो Artemis named after the Greek moon goddesses represent the comprehensive agreement drawn by the US to bring together nations that share a common vision for civil space exploration. It serves as the framework for cooperation and collaboration in space exploration, building up a foundation of the Outer Space Treaty of 1967. The Artemis Accord were jointly launched by the United States Development of State and NASA on October 13, 2020, with 7 partner countries such as Canada, Italy, Japan, Luxembourg, UAE, and the UK. The principles of the Artemis Accord include क्या तो Artemis program include plan for a base on the lunar surface, multiple spacecraft to ferry humans and cargo, an orbiting space station, and a constellation of satellites to help with navigation and communication. The first Artemis crew mission to the moon's surface is likely in 2026. NASA is also need to emphasize that the Artemis program will take the first woman and the first person of color to the moon. यहाँ पे व्हाट इज स्टेट विजिट. स्टेट विजिट क्या है देख लेते हैं. तो स्टेट विजिट आर द हाईएस्ट रैंक कैटेगरी ऑफ फॉरेन विजिट टू द यूएस where the head of the state visit the US on the formal invitation of the US president. Invitation from the state visit signifies that the US considers the guest nation an important friend and ally. A state dinner is a crucial part of such visit. The state dinner is held at the White House, the residence of the US president. The other key event that marks state visit include क्या a 21 gun salute, White House arrival ceremony, and an invitation to stay at the Blair House, the US President Guest House across Pennsylvania Avenue. अगला न्यूज़ है UN adopts High Sea Treaty. The United Nations has adopted the first ever international treaty to govern the high sea and protect remote ecosystem vital to humanity. The treaty will take effect once it is ratified by 60 countries. What are the high seas? The high seas are a part of the ocean that are not included in the Executive Economic Zone (EEZ), territorial sea and internal water of the state. Water beyond 20 nautical miles from the coast of country is known as high sea. High sea are the areas of the ocean for which no one nation has sole responsibility for management. UN High Sea Treaty क्या है तो agreed under the UNCLOS. This treaty is commonly known as the Agreement of Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction BBJNJ. This treaty is the first international law to offer some protection to the nearly two-thirds of the ocean that is beyond national control. This treaty will be legally binding in nature. Key provision of the UN High Sea Treaty क्या है तो पहला है demarcation of marine protected area MPAs. MPAs are where ocean system including biodiversity are under stress either due to human activity or climate change. These can be called the national parks or wildlife reserve of the ocean. Activities in this area will be highly regulated and conservation efforts similar to what happened in the forest or wildlife zone will be undertaken. Sustainable use of marine genetic resource and equitable sharing of benefit arising from them. The treaty seeks to ensure that any benefit arising out of such efforts include monetary gain or free from strong intellectual property rights control and are equitable share amongst all. The knowledge generated from such expenditure are also supposed to remain openly accessible in all. Initial of the principle of environmental impact assessment for all major activities in the ocean. क्या So under the new treaty, commercial or other activities that can have significant impact on the marine ecosystem would require an environmental impact assessment to be done. Creation of new body क्या है The treaty will create a new body to manage conservation of ocean life and establish marine protected area in the high seas. वेगर ग्रुप क्या है तो येवगेन प्रिगोजिन द चीफ ऑफ रशियाज Wagner private military campaign died in a plane crash. The Wagner group first surfaced during Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. Essentially a network of contractors that supply soldiers for hire. The group isn't registered anywhere in its source of funding remain unknown. The organization's owner and head was Yevgeny Prigozhin. Apart from Ukraine, Wagner Group is reportedly also active in Western Asia and several countries in Africa. According to media reports, it provides its service to different governments, offer in exchange for access to gold and diamond mines. India gift missile corvette INS Kripan to Vietnam. India gifted the indigenous wheeled in service missile corvette INS Kripan to Vietnam to enhance the country's naval capabilities. INS Kripan is the third indigenously wheeled Kukri class missile corvette. However, the gifting of the corvette to Vietnam marks the first instance of India gifting a warship to a Chinese neighbor with a coastline on the South China Sea. अगला sanctions committee of UNSC. Each sanctions regime is administered by a sanction committee that consists of all 15 members of the Security Council. 15 members include कौन सा तो 5 permanent member and 10 non-permanent members of UNSC. This sanctions committee ensures the implementation of the sanction and can decide by consensus to adopt targeted sanction against specific individual emphasizes or entities. Example: UNSC, Al Qaeda, and ISIL sanction committee of or 1267 sanctions committee is one of such committee. A function of UNSC sanction committee: once an entity or an individual is included in the list, it gets designated as the global terrorist. The member states are required to पहला क्या freeze fund and financial assistance to that individual या entity. Second is enforce a travel ban, and third is cut off access to arms and related materials. Procedure followed by the UN Sanction Committee confirms the decision of consensus. The requirement effectively gives a veto to all 15 members of the committee, 10 non-permanent and 5 permanent members. Member can replace a hold on the decision. A committee member can place a hold on decisions should they require more time and information to consider the matter at hand. As per the guidelines, a hold can last for as long as 6 months at a time but cannot exceeded further under extraordinary circumstances. Apart from this vague condition, there is no restriction or reportedly invoking a hold. Committee meeting take place in closed session with no publication of the agenda proceeding on voting record of the committee. What is UNSC Al-Qaeda and ISIL Sanction Committee? The ISIL, Daesh and Al-Qaeda Sanction Committee is also known as 1267 Sanction Committee. It is one of the most important UN subsidiary bodies working to combat terrorism, particularly in relation to ISIL, Daesh, Al-Qaeda and associated individual group undertaking and entities. This committee oversees the implementation of sanctions pursuant to UNSC Resolution 1267 1999, 1989, 2011 and 2253 in 2015. India UN SDG Cooperation Framework. Recently, Niti Aayog and the United Nations in India signed the Government of India United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2023-27. About GOL UNSDC framework क्या है तो it represents the UN Development System collective offered to the Government of India in the line with the National Vision for Development for the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, promoting gender equality, youth empowerment and human rights. It is built on the fourth strategic pillar derived from the 2030 Agenda, People, Prosperity, Planet and Participation. The fourth interlinking pillar has 6 outcome areas focusing on health and well-being, nutrition and food security, quality education, economic growth and decent work, environment, climate wash and resilience, and empowering people, community and institutions. The implementation and monitoring, it will be co-led by the Government of India and the United Nations India through a joint steering committee. Universal Postal Union UPU. The Union Cabinet has approved the ratification of amendments to the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union UPU as contained in the 11th additional portal to the Constitution signed during the 27th Congress of the Universal Postal Union held in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire from 9 to 27 August 2021. The approval enables the Department of Post, Government of India to have the instrument of ratification signed by the Honorable President of India and have the same deposited with the Director General of International Bureau of the Universal Postal Union. This would fulfill the obligations arising from Article 25 and 30 of the UPU Constitution, which provides for ratification of amendments to Constitution adopted by the Congress as soon as possible for member countries. The Universal Postal Union UPU, established by the Treaty of Bern of 1874, is a specialized agency of the United Nations UN that coordinates postal policies among member nations in addition to the worldwide postal system. The UPU's headquarters are located in Bern, Switzerland. Asia Pacific Plant Protection Commission APPC. The Asia Pacific Plant Protection Commission unanimously elected India as chair of the Standing Committee on Integrated Pest Management IPM for the Biennium 2023-24 during the 32nd session held in Bangkok. About Asia Pacific Plant Protection Commission क्या है तो ऑब्जेक्टिव्स का क्या है तो कमीशन कोऑर्डिनेट्स एंड सपोर्ट प्लांट प्रोटेक्शन एक्टिविटी ऑफ इट्स मेंबर्स in Asia and the Pacific, with emphasis on developing regional standards for phytosanitary measures RSPMS etc. It was established in 1956 as a regional body approved by the Food Agriculture Organization FAO of the United Nations. Member countries क्या है तो the commission consists of 25 member countries including India. Status of the organization क्या है the commission consists of representative of all member countries and elects among them a chairperson who serves for a period of 2 years. The Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization appoints and provides the secretariat that coordinates, organizes, and follows up the work of the Commission. The Commission, according to its provision, convenes at least once every 2 years and opens for participation to all member countries. Indus Water Treaty IWT ये क्या है तो India recently made a proposal to Pakistan to hold a meeting on discussion the potential renegotiation of the Indus Water Treaty. इंडस वाटर ट्रीटी क्या है? द ट्रीटी इज अ वाटर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ट्रीटी बिटवीन इंडिया एंड पाकिस्तान brokered by the World Bank. According to this treaty, three rivers, Ravi, Satluj and Beas, were given to India and the other three, Sindh, Jhelum and Chenab, were given to Pakistan. Rights and obligation under this treaty क्या है? तो India is under obligation to lead water of the western river flowing except for certain compensative use. This treaty allocates Pakistan approximately 80% of the entire water of the six river Indus system and reserved for India just remaining 19.84% of the total water. India can construct a storage facility on western river of up to 3.6 million acre feet, which it has not done so far. The IWT permits run of the river project are required India to provide Pakistan with prior notification, including design information of any new project. What are the dispute redressal mechanism under the Indus Water Treaty? So Article 9 of the treaty is a dispute resolution mechanism granted at three levels to resolve a difference or a dispute related to protects of the Indus water. First level क्या है? तो entire party has to inform the other side if they are planning project on the Indus river with all the information that is required to ask for by other party. This process is done at the level of Permanent Indus Commission (PIC) created to implement and manage the goals of IWT. If PIC is unable to solve the question in contention, the question becomes difficult and goes to second level. सेकेंड लेवल में क्या होगा? तो द सेकेंड लेवल इज द वर्ल्ड बैंक अपॉइंटिंग ए न्यूट्रल एक्सपर्ट टू रिजॉल्व द डिफरेंस. इफ a neutral expert cannot resolve the issue, the difference becomes a dispute and goes to third level. थर्ड लेवल में क्या होगा? तो at this level the matter goes to the court of arbitration COA whose chair is appointed by the World Bank. यहाँ पे आप लोग इंडस वाटर ट्रीटी का मैप देखिए. यहाँ पे आप लोग को मैप में दिख रहा होगा कि रेड से जो रिवर है सतलज, ब्यास, रवि, और ब्लू से इंडस, चेनाब एंड झेलम. यहाँ पे काफ़ी सारा हुरी डैम, सलाल डैम, पोंग डैम एंड भाखरा डैम इज़ ऑन इंडिया साइड. और इसी तरह से तरबेला डैम, मांगला डैम, पंजहंद बैराज एंड सुकार बैराज इज़ ऑन पाकिस्तान साइड. और ये नेक्स्ट न्यूज़ है. ग्रुप ऑफ ग्लोबल क्राइसिस रिस्पांस ग्रुप GCRG India recently joined the campaigns group of global crisis response groups GCRG. About global crisis response group क्या है? तो GCRG was set up by the UN Secretary General in March 2022. पर्पस क्या है? तो the 32 member group ensures high level political leadership to get ahead of the immune interconnected challenges of food security, energy and financing, and implement a coordinated global response to the ongoing crisis. It is overseen by the champion group comprising respective of Bangladesh, Barbados, Denmark, Germany, Indonesia and Senegal. The UN Dispute Secretary General leads to the stressing committee of GCRG. GCRG team work क्या है? तो within the group 3 work stream of food, energy and finance will collect data and generate analysis, policy recommendation and solution to support decision making and advocacy for consideration of the steering committee. This work stream will remain flexible and responsive to opportunities that seek to resolve immediate crisis and the vulnerabilities of people and countries. Black Sea Grain Deal. The last ship carrying grain from Ukraine under the UN brokerage deal that guaranteed its safe passage left the port of Odisha. This deal is set to expire on July 17 and Russia is still not agreed to extend it. Geographical location of Black Sea क्या है? तो the Black Sea lies between the continents of Asia and Europe. It bound to the west of the Balkan Peninsula in southern Eastern Europe, to the east of Caucasus, north by Eastern Europe plain, and south by Anatolia of Western Asia. It is bordered by Ukraine in the north, Russia in the northeast, Georgia in the east, and Turkey in the south, and Bulgaria and Romania in the west. What is Black Sea Grain Deal क्या है? तो इन जुलाई 2022 रशिया एंड यूक्रेन साइंड अ डील टू रीओपन ग्रेन्स एक्सपोर्ट फ्रॉम यूक्रेन ब्लैक सी पोर्ट. The agreement is also known as Black Sea Initiative. Under the initiative, cargo ships would be allowed to travel from the three Ukrainian ports of Odisha, Chornomorsk, and Pivdenia. Use after inspection that they won't carry arms. A control center was established in Istanbul, staffed by UN, Turkish, Russia, and Ukrainian officers to run and coordinate the process. The deal has been extended twice and is due to expire on July 17. तो यहाँ पे ब्लैक सी का लोकेशन देख रहे होंगे इधर आप. यहाँ पे ब्लैक सी है, नीचे मेडिटेरेनियन है, ऊपर यूरोप है और इधर ईस्ट में एशिया है. अगला है क्लीन एनर्जी मिनिस्ट्रियल CEM and Mission Innovation MI. India hosted the 4th Clean Energy Ministerial CEM 14 and 8th Mission Innovation M18 meeting. The theme for CEM 14 MI 8 was Advancing Clean Energy Together. यहाँ पे फीचर है CME है और MI है. तो ईयर इस्टेब्लिश 2009 में हुआ था और MI हुआ था 2015 फेज़ 1 और 2021 में हुआ था फेज़ 2. ऑब्जेक्टिव देखते हैं तो पहले CME के ऑब्जेक्टिव देखते हैं. तो ऑब्जेक्टिव होगा प्रमोट एंड एक्सेलरेट क्लीन एनर्जी टेक्नोलॉजी, शेयर बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस, ट्रांजिशन टू क्लीन एनर्जी इकॉनमी. गवर्नेंस स्ट्रक्चर में देखते हैं तो हाई लेवल ग्लोबल फोरम बेस्ड ऑन कॉमन इंटरेस्ट. फोकस में देखते हैं तो लीडरशिप प्लेटफॉर्म, कन्वेनिंग एक्शन एक्सेलरेशन की एक्टिविटीज़ में क्या है तो एनुअल मिनिस्ट्रियल मीटिंग, इनिशिएटिव कैंपेन. मेंबरशिप में हो जाएगा तो 29 मेंबर्स, 28 गवर्निंग प्लस गवर्नमेंट्स प्लस यूरोपियन यूनियन. की अचीवमेंट में हो जाएगा तो ग्लोबल लाइटनिंग चैलेंज उज्ज्वला प्रोग्राम. टाइमलाइन होगा तो ऑनगोइंग. उसी तरह से MI का देखते हैं तो ईयर एस्टैब्लिश होगा 2015 फेज़ 1 और 2021 फेज़ 2. ऑब्जेक्टिव हो जाएगा तो एक्सेलरेट क्लीन एनर्जी इनोवेशन, मोबालाइज फंडिंग, एडवांस R&D, अचीव नेट जीरो गोल्स. गवर्नेंस स्ट्रक्चर में क्या हो जाएगा तो मिनिस्ट्रियल लेवल फोरम विद 23 कंट्रीज एंड EU. फोकस में क्या होता है रिसर्च डेवलपमेंट एंड डिमॉन्स्ट्रेशन RD&D ऑफ क्लीन एनर्जी. की एक्टिविटीज़ में क्या होगा तो एनुअल मिनिस्ट्रियल मीटिंग, क्लीन एनर्जी इनोवेशन मिशंस. मेंबरशिप में हो जाएगा 23 कंट्रीज प्लस यूरोपियन यूनियन. की अचीवमेंट में हो जाएगा तो डबलिंग गवर्नमेंट फंडिंग फॉर क्लीन एनर्जी RD&D. टाइमलाइन हो जाएगा फेज़ 1 2015 से 20. अगला है यूरोपियन स्काई शील्ड इनिशिएटिव ESSI. तो ये क्या है देखते हैं तो ऑस्ट्रिया एंड द स्विट्जरलैंड हैड बिकम द latest nation to join the European Sky Shield Initiative ESSI, bringing the total number of participants to 19. This ambitious project aimed to create a unified air and missile defense system for Europe, bolstering NATO's capabilities in the critical areas. Spearheaded by Germany in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, ESSI encourages European nations to work together in acquiring air defense equipment and missiles. This collaborative approach promises to strengthen the continent's collective defense and enhance its security postures. Other countries already participating in ESSI include Belgium, Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Norway, Slovakia, and the United Kingdom. This growing coalition reflects the shared commitment among European nations to enhance their air and missile defense capabilities and ensure a more secure future. PM Modi's visit to Greece क्या है तो following his visit to South Africa to attend 15th BRICS summit, PM Modi an official visit to Greece. This was the first time by an Indian Prime Minister to Greece in 40 years, where he was conferred with the Grand Cross of the Order of Honor. About Grand Cross of the Order of Honor क्या है तो it is the second highest civilian honor of the Greece. It is conferred to eminent personalities who, by reason of their distinguished position, has contributed to enhance the status of Greece. The Order of Honor was established in 1975. The head of the goddesses Athena is depicted on the front side of the star and the inscription "Only the righteous should be honored." अगला नॉर्थ सी. तो यहाँ पे आप लोग देख रहे होंगे नॉर्थ सी का यहाँ पे मैप दिया हुआ है अच्छे से. UK, डेनमार्क, नॉर्वे, नीदरलैंड, बेल्जियम, फ्रांस सराउंडिंग द नॉर्थ सी. UK Prime Minister recently backed plans for new fossil fuel drilling off British coast. The North Sea Transition Authority (NTSA), which is responsible for regulating oil, gas, and carbon storage industry, is planning to conduct its 33rd offshore oil and gas licensing round. About North Sea क्या होता है? Geographically, the North Sea lies between England and Scotland, or its west, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France on its south, Norway, Denmark, and Germany on its east. It is an epic sea or island sea, either completely surrounded by dry land or connected to an ocean by a river, strait, or arm of the sea on the European continental shelf. It connects the Atlantic Ocean through the English Channel in the south and Norwegian Sea in the north. अगला बिजनेस 20 B20 समिट हेल्ड इन न्यू दिल्ली। तो न्यूज़ में क्यों था? तो मणिपुर चीफ मिनिस्टर एन बीरेन सिंह inaugurated a conference of opportunities of multilateral business partnership in ICT, tourism, health care and handloom in Imphal. This was the first of the 4 sessions of BM20 scheduled in Northeast India. What is B20 conference? The Business 20 या B20 is an event which is part of G20 summit. It is the voice of the G20 Business Committee. More specifically, its main purpose consists in developing recommendation and issuing relevant commitments from the business leader and business organization to deal with nowadays issues. The first B20 conference took place in South Korea in 2010. Working of B20. The B20 has no standing secretariat. The leadership rotates every year together with the G20 presidency. The B20 delivers concert actionable policy recommendations and priorities established by each rotation presidency to spur economic growth and development. Its working proceeding is based on Task Force (TFs), Action Council (ACs), interested and developing consensus-based policy proposal to the G20 and to international organizations and institutions. Next is the spirit of Camp David. इसे हम लोग अगले वीडियो लेक्चर में करेंगे। इस वीडियो लेक्चर को यहीं समाप्त करते हैं। उम्मीद है आपको एपिसोड वीडियो पसंद आया होगा, तो आप लोग कमेंट सेक्शन में जरूर बताएंगे आपको हमारी पहल कैसी लगी। और अगर आप लोग हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं और अभी तक हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो प्लीज़ इसे सब्सक्राइब करके हमें सपोर्ट करें, क्योंकि आपके सपोर्ट क्या है बहुत आवश्यकता पड़ती है। और वीडियो को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर करें उन लोगों तक जो इस बार के UPSC प्री देने वाले हैं, ताकि वो भी अपना रिवीजन अच्छे से कर सके और आगे अच्छे से पढ़ सके। तो मिलते हैं आपसे अगले वीडियो लेक्चर में। तब तक के लिए हमारे प्रीवियस वीडियो लेक्चर को अगर आप लोगों ने नहीं देखा तो उसे भी देखिए, उसे भी स्नेह दीजिए, प्यार दीजिए और उससे भी रिवीजन कीजिए। तो मिलते हैं आपसे अगले वीडियो लेक्चर में। तब तक के लिए जय हिंद, जय भारत। जय हिंद दोस्तों, फिर से आपका स्वागत है हमारे इस वाजीराम एंड रवि के प्रीलिम्स के रिवीजन सीरीज़ में। यह 2024 का है और पार्ट 1 है, जिसमें मई से दिसंबर 2023 तक का पूरा कंपाइलेशन है। और आप लोगों को एग्जाम का डेट पता ही होगा 26 मई 2024, तो नज़दीक आ रहा है। तो आप लोग अपना तैयारी को और तेज़ कर लीजिए और मजबूत कीजिए। और इसमें हम लोग करंट अफेयर देख रहे थे और हम लोग यहाँ इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस में ही चल रहे थे, तो इसे हम लोग कंप्लीट करते हैं जल्दी पूरा बुक हम लोग आपके साथ कंप्लीट करने वाले। तो बस हमारे साथ बने रहें, जुड़े रहें। और अगर आप लोग हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं और अभी तक हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो प्लीज़ इसे सब्सक्राइब करके हमें सपोर्ट करें, क्योंकि आपके सपोर्ट की हमें बहुत आवश्यकता होती है। और वीडियो को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर करें उन लोगों तक जो इस बार के UPSC प्री देने वाले हैं, ताकि उन्हें भी करंट अफेयर का काफ़ी लाभ मिल सके और एग्ज़ाम की तैयारी करने में काफ़ी मदद हो सके। आपको इस चैनल पे UPSC से रिलेटेड कई सारे मैटर्स मिलने वाले हैं, कई सारे कंटेंट मिलने वाले हैं। तो आप लोग बस हमारे साथ बने रहें, जुड़े रहें और हमारे चैनल को फॉलो करें, सब्सक्राइब करें और अपने रिवीजन को और अच्छा करें, ताकि जब भी एग्ज़ाम हो तो आप लोग का परफॉर्मेंस अच्छा रहे और आप लोग अच्छा परफॉर्म कर सकें। तो आइए शुरू करते हैं आज का हमारा टॉपिक, जहाँ हम लोगों ने लास्ट छोड़ा था। तो हमारा टॉपिक यहाँ पे होगा, लास्ट हम लोगों ने बिजनेस 20 B20 समिट हेल्ड इन दिल्ली किया हुआ था। आज हम लोग यहाँ से शुरू करने वाले हैं द स्पिरिट ऑफ कैंप डेविड। शुरू करने से पहले फिर से आपसे ये अनुरोध रहेगा कि अगर आप लोग हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं और अभी तक हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो प्लीज़ इसे सब्सक्राइब करके हमें सपोर्ट करें। शुरू करते हैं द स्पिरिट ऑफ कैंप डेविड। US President Joe Biden convened the inaugural joint summit at Camp David, a presidential retreat in Maryland, welcoming Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and South Korea President Yoon Suk Yeol. During the summit, the leaders committed to strengthening both military and economic alliance while collectively condemning China for its perceived aggressive conduct. Camp David held historical significance as a venue where American presidents historically engaged with foreign delegates. Notably, in 1978, former President Jimmy Carter hosted a pivotal 13-day gathering at this retreat, accommodating the leaders of Israel and Egypt. Prime Minister Mekangam began as President Anwar Sadat respectively. Next है Philippines removes floating barrier installed by China. यहाँ आप लोग देख रहे होंगे साउथ चाइना सी है, यहाँ फिलीपींस, इंडोनेशिया, मलेशिया, वियतनाम, चाइना है। आप लोग फिगर में देख सकते हैं। आइए शुरू कर देते हैं। फिलीपींस हैज़ रिमूव्ड अ फ्लोटिंग बैरियर इंस्टॉल्ड बाय चाइना टू ब्लॉक फिलीपींस फिशिंग बोट एंटरिंग अ contested area in South China. Manila says China violated its fishing rights with the 300-meter या 1000 feet barrier in the scrapboard soil. The Philippines described the soil as an integral part of Philippine national territory. Scarborough soil is within the 200 nautical mile 370 kilometers EEZ of Philippines as defined by the international maritime law. It was affirmed by the ruling of the Hague's International Court of Arbitration. China claims more than 90% of South China Sea and seized the soil in 2012. Beijing claimed the area as part of its territory and refers to Scarborough soil as Hongyan Island. South China Sea dispute. The South China Sea is a marginal sea that is part of Pacific Ocean, encompassing an area from the Karimata and Malacca Strait of the Strait of Taiwan. South China dispute is a dispute over territory and sovereignty over ocean area in South China Sea. This also includes the two islands, namely the Parkels and the Spratly. China often invoked the so-called nine-dash line to justify its apparent historically right over most of the South China Sea. Part of this sea is also claimed by Taiwan, Malaysia, Philippines, Brunei, and Vietnam. China has ignored a 2016 International Tribunal decision that declared China's assertion as without basis. In 2016, Permanent Court of Arbitration (PCA) awarded a verdict refuting Chinese claim over the South China Sea. Permanent Court of Arbitration क्या है? Arbitration (PCA) क्या है? तो established in 1899 to facilitate arbitration and other forms of dispute resolution between states. The PCA has a three-part organizational structure consisting of an administrative council that oversees its policies and budget, a panel of independent potential arbitrators known as members of the court, and its secretariat, known as the International Bureau, headed by the Secretary General. The PCA has a financial assistance fund which aim at helping developing countries meet part of the cost involved in international arbitration or other means of dispute settlement offered by PCA. Allah Indonesia offers golden visa to attract foreign investors. In a move to woo foreign individual and corporate investors, Indonesia has introduced a golden visa scheme. A golden visa is an immigration program that allows wealthy individuals to obtain a residence permit or citizen in a foreign country. Under this new visa scheme, foreign investor can receive a resident permit of between 5 से 10 साल depending upon the value of their investment. To be eligible for 5-year visa, a individual needs to set up a company worth 2.5 million. If one wants a 10-year visa, an investor of $5 million would be required. Corporate investor क्या है तो are required to invest $25 million to get 5-year visa. For director and commissioner, they need to invest double 50 billion to gain a 10-year visa. अगला है अब्राहम अकॉर्ड क्या है तो on 18th October 2021 the foreign minister of United States, India, Israel and UAE meet virtually to enhance cooperation and partnership between these states on the back of Abraham Accord signed in 2020, normalizing relations between Israel and a grouping of Arabian states led by the UAE. The Abraham Accord are a joint statement between Israel, the UAE and the USA reached in 2020. Subsequently, the term was used to refer collectively to agreements between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, the Israel and United Arab Emirates Normalized Agreement, and Bahrain, respectively, the Bahrain-Israel Normalization Agreement. The statement marked the first public normalization of relations between the Arab country and Israel since that of Jordan 1994. The agreement with the UAE was officially titled the Abraham Accord Peace Agreement, Treaty of Peace, Diplomatic Relation and Full Normalization between the United Arab Emirates and the State of Israel. The agreement between Bahrain and Israel was officially titled the Abraham Accord Declaration of Peace, Cooperation, Constructive Diplomatic and Friendly Relation and was announced by the United States on September 11, 2020. The accord was named after Abraham to emphasize the shared origin of belief between Judaism and Islam, both of which are Abrahamic religion that strictly is- espouse the monotheistic worship of the God of Abraham. Iran's moral morality police क्या है तो Iran's rule has intensified a clampdown or decent 1 year since the death of police custody of Masa Amini. The death of Masa Amini has sparked protests that spiraled into some of worst political turmoil since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Background क्या है तो Iran's so-called morality police arrested 22-year-old Jina Masha Amini in Tehran for allegedly violating Iran's mandatory Islamic dress code. They then took her to a police station where she slipped into a coma. 3 days later, she died in hospital. Morality police of Iran क्या है तो गश्त ए इरशाद was translated as guidance patrol is widely known as morality police. It is a unit of Iran's police force established under former hardline President Mohammad Ahmadinejad. It is supervised by Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. However, the elected government has a say in these activities through the Interior Ministry. Both men and women officials are part of morality police. Function क्या है तो not only the enforcement of hijab but the implementation of other rules on public appearance and conduct are also the responsibility of the police. In 2010, for instance, Iran's Ministry of Culture and Islamic Guidance issued a template for sustainable haircut for men in order to hold Western influence and culture. The morality police were tasked with enforced its slogan. Iran is 1 year since Masha Amini protest erupted. तो पहला है क्या morality police vanished and then reappeared. Morality police largely vanished from the street after Amini's death in the custody. However, after the protest lost momentum, they once again took to the street. The authorities installed surveillance camera to identify and enforce penalties against women who were not wearing veils. Veil as one of the principles of Islamic Republic. The authorities described the veil as one of the principles of Islamic Republic. It ordered both public and private sector to deny services of any woman who had discarded it. Proposal for long prisoner term. With many Iranians say the number of unveiled women continue to grow, the parliament is considering longer prison term for anyone who float the dress code. Response to Western countries क्या है तो Western countries imposed new sanction on security forces and a dozen of Iranian officers of the protest, further straining already difficult ties. अगला यूनाइटेड नेशन कमीशन ऑन इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड लॉ UNCI UNCRITL. The Economic Survey 2021-22 calls for the standardized framework for cross-border insolvency to facilitate debt recovery for leaders to insolvent companies across international borders. More in the news में क्या है तो currently the IBC does not automatically recognize foreign insolvency proceeding, creating uncertainty for creditor, debitor, and other stakeholder. This hinders the ability of leader to recover debt from insolvent companies with international asset and liabilities. The survey recommends adopting the United Nations Commission of International Trade Law (UNCITRAL) model law or cross-border insolvency with certain modification to bring foreign asset under the insolvency process. About UNCITRAL क्या है तो this legislative framework serves as a blueprint for countries to customize and adopt, allowing for adjustment to fit their unique legal environment and circumstances. Adopted by 49 countries, including Singapore, UK, US, and South Africa. UNCITRAL grant foreign professional and creditor the right to directly access democratic courts and participate in or integrate domestic insolvency proceeding. It facilitates the recognition of foreign insolvency proceeding and empowers court to grant appropriate relief based on their assessment. Italy to come out of BRI. In a private meeting during the G20 summit 2023, Italy PM Giorgia Meloni reportedly conveyed Italy's plan to withdraw from the Belt and Road Initiative to Chinese Premier. Italy is the only G7 country to sign up for the BRI, with which it did in 2019. तो यहाँ पे देख रहे थे आप लोग, सिल्क रूट इकोनॉमिक बेल्ट क्या है, ब्लू कलर में, जो चाइना से शुरू होता है, और 21st सेंचुरी मेराटाइम सिल्क रूट क्या है, तो वो इंडिया से होते हुए जाता है। तो आप लोग इसे देख, इंडिया अफ्रीका सब कवर कर लेता है, तो आप लोग इसे देख लेते हैं। तो चाइनाज बेल्ट एंड रोड इनिशिएटिव क्या है, BRI, तो चाइनाज बेल्ट एंड रोड इनिशिएटिव ऑल्सो नोन एज वन बेल्ट वन रोड, BOBOR, envisages the construction of a maze of road, rail and port project through a number of countries. The aim to strengthen Beijing's economic leadership through a vast program of infrastructure building throughout China's neighbor region. This initiative is called 21st Century Silk Road and is made up of belt of overland corridor, also known as Silk Road Economic Belt Maritime Shipping Lane, BRI, and India. India does not support the BRI and has declined to join the project. The major reason for this is that the BRI passes through Indian territory illegally held by Pakistan, POK. The arm of BRI project known as China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, runs from Kashgar in China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region to Gwadar Port in southern western Balochistan in Pakistan. Shutting down of Afghan embassy in India. Recently, a statement carrying the seal of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan announced the closure of embassy of Afghanistan in Delhi. की हाईलाइट क्या है, तो in its official communication, the Afghan embassy blamed multiple factors including lack of cooperation from the government of India and a lack of resource to operate any further. Furthermore, the embassy has urged the Indian government to fly and flag of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan over embassy premises. It also asked New Delhi to hand over the mission to a legitimate government of Afghanistan sometimes in future. The Taliban government in Afghanistan is not recognized by India as de facto rules. With the displacement of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, the Embassy of Afghanistan in New Delhi had begun to work as a stateless mission. It should be noted that despite the closure of the embassy in Delhi, India and Afghanistan are continuing engagement with each other in a curious way. India has been maintaining a technical term in Kabul where the staff provides visa to Afghan trader and traveler to India. अगला, इंडिया पैलेस्टीन एंड UNRWA. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres recently announced that the United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestinian Refugees in a Near East, UNRWA, is on the verge of financial collapse. United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestinian Refugees in the Near East, UNRWA क्या है, तो it is an UN agency that supports the relief and human development of Palestinian refugees. It was established in 1949, where nearly 3/4 of a million Palestinians became refugees in the aftermath of 1948 Arab-Israeli war. Mandate क्या है, तो to support Palestinian refugees and their patrilineal descendants who fled or were expelled from their homes during the 1948 Palestine War and 1967 Six-Day War. UNRWA was originally designed as a temporary agency, though its mandate has been continuously renewed every 3 years by General Assembly. Service provided में क्या है, तो it serves encompass education, healthcare, relief and social services, camp infrastructure and improvement, microfinance and energy assistance, including in times of armed conflict. Field of operation क्या है, तो it provides service in a 5 field of operation: Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Gaza Strip and Western Bank, including east of Jerusalem. UNRWA is unique in that it delivers services directly to its beneficiaries. Funding: it is funded almost entirely by voluntary contribution from UN member states. It also receives some funding from the regular budget of the United Nations. It reports not only to the General Assembly. Headquarter क्या है, तो it was originally headquartered in Beirut, Lebanon, but was moved in Vienna, Austria in 1978. In 1996, the General Assembly moved the agency of Gaza Strip to demonstrate the Assembly's commitment to the Arab Islami peace process. Its chief officer, the Commissioner General, the only leader of UN agency to report directly to the General Assembly, is appointed by the UN Secretary General with the approval of an advisory commission. अगला है ऑपरेशन अजय. Days after the Israel-Hamas war broke, India reiterated its call for creation of sovereign Palestinian state. This statement comes as India is sending a chartered flight to bring back Indian national under Operation Ajay. Operation Ajay is not technically an evacuation operation. It is an operation to repatriate its citizens from Israel. Special chartered flight will bring back the Indian Navy ships will be deployed if the needed arises. अगला है प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन इन मालदीव्स. Fronter runner and opposition candidate Mohammad Muizzu was elected president of the Maldives. He defeated the India-friendly incumbent Ibrahim Mohammed Sohail in a closely fought contest. Possible change in foreign policy of Maldives क्या है तो Muizzu victory was signal a shift in Maldives foreign policy. He supported the former president Abdullah Yamin, who had a pro-China stance and wanted India out of the country. Abdullah Yamin has launched India Out campaign. India's recent project in Maldives include the Adu Development Project, the Greater Malay Connectivity Project. China-Bhutan boundary talks. China and Bhutan held their 25th round of boundary talk in Beijing. The boundary talks were held after a gap of 7 years and indicate significant progress that has been made. Both the countries signed a cooperation agreement on a responsibility and function of the joint technical term JTT on the delimitation and demarcation of Bhutan-China boundary. This advances their third step roadmap initiative in 2021 for border resolution, building on a positive momentum since their last talk in 2016. Three-step roadmap क्या है तो Bhutan and China did not have diplomatic ties as Bhutan has avoided diplomatic relations with all the United Nations Security Council permanent members. The three-step roadmap involves agreeing to the Bhutan on table, then visiting the site on the ground, and then formally democrating the boundary. China-Bhutan border dispute क्या है तो Bhutan shares a 477 km long border with China, which claims certain territory from Bhutan. In the north, Pasmolong and Jarklong Valley, and in the west, Doklam, Dravna, and Sakhonte, Yakchu, and Chirithangchu, and Sinchulungpa, and Lamgarpo Valley. These places are pasture rich and strategically located in Bhutan, India, China tri-junction, lying precisely close to India's Siliguri corridor. यहाँ पर आप लोग मैप में इसे देख सकते हैं कहाँ पे क्या है. In 2020, China made new claims on Bhutan East in the Sakteng Sanctuary. This eastern sector of Bhutan has a large Bhutanese population, traditional Dzongs, medieval foresters, and two Bhutanese districts since time immemorial. USS Dwight E. Eisenhower, U.S. Defense Secretary, announced that the nuclear-powered USS Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group CSG has been directed to move to the Eastern Mediterranean. This place is right next to the ongoing conflict between Israel and the militant organization Hamas. USS Eisenhower has been described as the Navy's finest five-star air carrier. The Eisenhower CSG joined the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, which arrived earlier in the region. USS Gerald R. Ford is the US Navy's newest and most advanced aircraft carrier yet. The presence of carrier can reiterate American support from its longtime ally Israel in the region. There are indications that if the Iran-backed group Hezbollah decided to join the conflict on a full-scale level, it could draw other regional power in. अगला है UN approved a Kenya-led security mission to troubled Haiti. The UNSC has approved international intervention in the form of foreign security mission led by Kenya to restore security and control spiraling violence in Haiti. What is Haiti? क्या है तो Haiti occupies the western third of island of Hispaniola, Hispaniola, situated between Cuba and Puerto Rico, which is shared by the Democratic Republic. The Atlantic Ocean borders Haiti's northern shore, while the Caribbean Sea in the west and the south. वॉलेंस इन हैती क्या यहाँ पे देख सकते हो आप लोग मैप में हैती कहाँ है डोमिनिकन रिपब्लिक कहाँ है बहामास क्यूबा कैरेबियन सी वॉलेंस इन हैती क्या है तो हैती हैज़ एक्सपीरियंस्ड a surge in violence over the past year as armed group took control of large part of the country including the Cape Captain Port au Prince. The country plunged into a crisis where a group of gang called G9 and families seized control of the entry of the main fuel port, Vervex in the capital. They were protesting the PM's decision to cut fuel subsidies. To make matter worse, there was a shortage of bottled water in the backdrop of new outbreak in outbreak of cholera. अगला कतर कोर्ट sentenced 8 Indian Navy veterans to death. 8 former personnel of the Indian Navy who were detained in Doha in 2022 has been sentenced to death by a Qatari court. The death sentence had been limited to life imprisonment. Who are these Indian and what were they doing in Qatar? The 8 former Navy personnel were working at Al Doha Global Technologies and Consultancy Service, a defense service provider company. Most of the arrested men has been working at Doha for 4 to 6 years at the time of their arrest. Commander Parnedu Tiwai, retired, who were managing director of the company, received a परवेशी भारतीय सम्मान in 2019 for his service in furthering the bilateral relation between India and Qatar. The company is owned by Omani national Khamis Al Ajmai, a retired squadron leader of the Royal Oman Air Force. The company old website, which is no longer exists, said it provided training, logistic and maintenance service to the Qatari Imari Naval Force QENF. Next is Sri Lanka offer free visa to Indian to revive tourism. Sri Lanka has waived visa free for Indian and tourists from 6 other countries as part of their efforts to boost tourist arrivals. The Sri Lanka Foreign Ministry announced that India will get free visa to the nation as part of pilot program which will extend till 31st March 2024. This scheme is also extended to citizens from 6 other countries: Russia, China, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia and Japan. This step were taken to generate a target of 5 million arrival by 2026. अगला कनाडा वीज़ा सर्विस नॉट अवेलेबल ओनली इन दिल्ली. Canada has stopped visa and consular service at its Chandigarh, Mumbai, Bengaluru consulate. This service will now be available only in Canadian High Commission in New Delhi. India insists that its actions are consistent with the tenets set forth in Article 11.1 of Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. क्या तो Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations is an international treaty signed by 61 countries in 1961. It puts forth a framework for diplomatic interaction between independent nations and aim to ensure the development of friendly relations among nations. At present, 193 countries are part of the document. What is Article 11.1 about? Article 11.1 of the convention says that if there is no clear agreement on how big a mission should be, the country hosting the mission can ask that the mission size stay within what they consider responsible and usual. This condition will depend on the situation in the hosting country and the mission's specific needs. अगला इंडिया जापान चिप सप्लाई चेन पार्टनरशिप. A memorandum of cooperation (MOC) has been signed between the Ministry of Electronic and Information Technology and of India and the Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry of Japan. India Semiconductor Mission (ISM) launched in 2021 with a budget of 76,000 crore. part of the comprehensive program to develop a sustainable semiconductor and display ecosystem in India, provides financial support to companies investing in semiconductor display manufacturing and design. Led by global expert in semiconductor and display industry, the India Semiconductor Mission (ISM) is the nodal agency for the scheme approved under the Semicon India program. Semiconductor क्या है तो a semiconductor is a material that has electrical conductivity between that of a conductor and an insulator. Types क्या है तो semiconductor can be pure element like silicon or germanium or components like gallium arsenide. प्रॉपर्टीज क्या है रेजिस्टिविटी सेमीकंडक्टर रेजिस्टिविटी फॉल एज द टेम्परेचर राइजेस. कंडक्टेंस क्या है तो सेमीकंडक्टर कंडक्टिविटी एबिलिटी कैन बी इंक्रीज बाय केमिकल ट्रीटमेंट. एप्लीकेशन क्या है तो सेमीकंडक्टर आर द फाउंडेशन ऑफ मॉडर्न इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स यूज्ड इन ट्रांजिस्टर इंटीग्रेटेड सर्किट ICs and other components. These components are found in a vast array of devices including computers, smartphone, television, medical equipment and much more. अगला है इंडिया श्रीलंका फेरी सर्विस restarted. An age-old sea route between India and Sri Lanka has been rejuvenated with the inauguration of passenger ferry service, a high-speed craft named Cheriyapani from Nagapattinam, Tamil Nadu to Kankesanthuri in Jaffna, northern Sri Lanka. Maritime link between India and Sri Lanka. The India-Seoul Express or boat mail, a train ran between Chennai and Colombo via the Thoothukudi port from the early 1900s up to 1982. Passenger from Chennai would go on to train and then transfer to the coal-powered steam ferry in Dhanushkodi, which would take them to Talai Mannar in roughly 2 hours. Attempts were also made to establish services from Rameswaram to Talai Mannar and Karaikal to Kankesanthurai. Various challenges kept this proposal from materializing. Agla laws governing the conflict. Conflict between Israel and Palestine falls under a complex international system of justice that held emerged since World War II. Laws governing the conflict में क्या है तो 1949 Geneva Convention. Internationally accepted rule of armed conflict emerged out of 1949 Geneva Convention. These rules has been ratified by all UN member states and supplemented by ruling an international war crimes tribunal. A SEC can be considered a war crime if it targets civilian or if found to be disproportionate attack on military objective has to be proposal under international law. This means they must not lead to excessive loss of civilian life or damage or civil objects in nation to the direct and concrete military advantage. Experts. International humanitarian law. A series of treaties governing the treatment of civilians, soldiers, and prisoners of war in a system collectively known as law of armed conflict or international humanitarian law. It applies to the government forces and organized armed groups, including Hamas militants, International Criminal Court (ICC) in The Hague. If allied Palestine proportionate of atrocities in Israel and all allied proportionate of crime on the occupied Palestine territory are not brought to justice at home, the ICC can change them. It is the only global court that can hold them accountable. The ICC's founding Rome statute gave its legal authority to investigate allied crimes on the territory of the member of or by their nationals who democratic authorities are unwilling to or unable to do so. The ICC recognizes Palestine as a member state while Israel rejected the court's jurisdiction and does not formally engage with it. Acts that violate war crime क्या है तो expert cities are possible war crimes. The deliberate targeting of civilian, indiscriminate rocket attack and the taking of civilian as hostage by Palestinian armed groups. The taking of hostage, murder and torture are explicitly banned under the Geneva Convention. Also, Israel's response could also be subject to a war crime investigation. The Israel drew criticism from UN official and human rights group by announcing a triggered blockage to prevent food and fuel from reaching the Gaza Strip, home to 2.3 million people. White phosphorus mutation क्या है? Munition. Two humanitarian organization has accused the Israeli Defense Force IDF for using white phosphorus munition in Gaza and Lebanon. White phosphorus क्या है? तो white phosphorus is a property that ignites when exposed to oxygen, producing thick, light smoke as well as intense 815 degrees Celsius heat. Under the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals, white phosphorus falls under pyrophoric solid category 1. This category includes the chemical that catch fire spontaneously when exposed to air. White phosphorus emits a distant garlic-like odor. Military use of white phosphorus क्या है? तो upon expose white phosphorus can cause severe burns, often down to the bone. Particle of white phosphorus that remain lodged in body can reignite if it contact with air. Inhaling white phosphorus particles or smoke can cause respiratory damage or harm the internal organ. Legal status of white phosphorus munition क्या है? तो use is regulated. White phosphorus munition are not under a blanket ban, though their use is regulated under the international humanitarian law. Not considered a chemical weapon. It is not considered a chemical weapon because its operational utility is primarily due to heat and smoke rather than toxicity. Thus, its use is governed by Convention on Conventional Weapons (CCW), specifically Portal 3, which deal with incendi- incendiary weapons. Palestine and Lebanon have joined Portal 3, while Israel has not ratified the protocol. Incendiary weapons are weapons that use fire and heat to set fire to object or cause burn or respiratory injury to people. Portal 3 of CCW regulates the use of incendiary weapon. Portal 3 prohibits the use of air-dropped incendiary weapon in concentration of civilian. However, it has two significant loopholes. कौन कौन सा? तो फर्स्ट देख लेते हैं. It restricts some but not all use of ground-launched incendiary weapon where they are concentration of civilians. Second, the protocol definition of incendiary weapon covers weapons that are primarily designed to set fire to and burn people. It excludes multi-purpose munition such as those containing white phosphorus, which are considered to be primary smoking agent. अगला UNGA adopts Gaza resolution. The United Nations General Assembly has passed a resolution calling for immediate humanitarian truce between Israel and Hamas and demanding aid access to Gaza. A total of 120 countries voted in favor of the resolution. 14 countries voted against, including Israel and the United States, while 45 others, including India, abstained. United Nations General Assembly (UNGA). It was established in 1945 under the Charter of the United Nations as it headquartered in New York City. It is one of the six principal organs of the UN and serves as the main policy-making organ of the organization. It provides a unique forum for multilateral discussion of the full spectrum of international issues covered by the Charter of the United Nations. Each of the 193 member states of the United Nations has an equal vote. Some of the important achievement of UNGA क्या है? तो Millennium Declaration adopted in 2000, the 2005 World Summit Outcome Document, 17 SDGs formulated in September 2015. India US Launch Capacity Building Initiative. The UN General Assembly held in 78th Annual Gathering EAM. S. Jaishankar led the Indian delegation at the Assembly. During the 78th UNGA, the India UN Capacity Building Initiative was announced at the event India UN for the Global South Delivery for Development. As part of this initiative, the UN India team and the Bill of Melinda Gates Foundation will partner together. Special session of UNGA क्या है तो United Nations Charter Chapter 4 Article 20 provides for the General Assembly to meet a special session. An occasion may require. Special sessions are convened by the Secretary General at the request of the Security Council or of a majority of the member of United Nations. Emergency Special Session of UNGA क्या है तो as Emergency Special Session of UN is an unscheduled meeting of United Nations General Assembly to make urgent recommendation on a particular issue. If the General Assembly is not in the session, the UN Charter allows to the meet in emergency special session with 24 hours of the request. Therefore, the procedure to call an emergency special session and laid out in the rules of procedure of the General Assembly. Emergency special session is called if requested by the Security Council on the vote of any 7 member or by a majority of the member of the UN. So far, only 11 such emergency sessions of the General Assembly has been held since 1950. Implication of resolution passed by the special emergency session क्या है तो these resolutions are not legally binding. These are symbolic of the world opinion of the crisis and carry political weightage as they represent the will of the entire UN membership. अगला है इंडिया यूएई साइन रुपए डोमेस्टिक कार्ड स्कीम DCS एग्रीमेंट. NPCI International Payment Limited NIPL and Al Ittihad Payment AEP has formed a strategic partnership to implement a democratic card scheme DCS in the UAE. This initiative aims to significantly enhance digital payment and e-commerce activity within the UAE. Entity क्या है तो NIPL is a wholly owned subsidiary of the National Payment Corporation of India (NPCI). AEPM is an indirect subsidiary of the Central Bank of UAE CEUAB AE. रुपए कार्ड क्या है तो रुपए is an indigenous card payment network which has debit, credit and prepaid facilities. These are issued via banking sector including public sector, private and small banks. Vienna Convention क्या है तो Indian government lodged a strong protest with the United Kingdom regarding the incident of vandalism at the Indian High Commission in London. It remained the Deputy High Commissioner of the UK's fundamental responsibility under the Vienna Convention to ensure the security of diplomatic mission and personnel. Adopt Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations 1961 क्या है तो comprehensive framework establish a complete set of rules for initiating, maintaining and ending diplomatic relations between sovereign states based on mutual consent. Global application क्या है तो nearly universally adopted by nation worldwide with only Palau and South Sudan remaining outside its scope. Diplomatic immunity क्या है तो ensure safe and unimpeded execution of diplomatic duties by granting privileges and immunities to diplomatic mission and personnel, protecting them from coercion or harmness by the host country. की प्रोविजन ऑफ वियना कन्वेंशन ऑन डिप्लोमेटिक रिलेशन क्या है तो पहला है इनवायलेबिलिटी ऑफ मिशन परमिसेस आर्टिकल 22 डिप्लोमेटिक मिशन कैन नॉट बी entered by the law enforcement of the host country without the consent of the head of the mission. The host country has a special duty to protect the premises from intrusion, damage, disturbance or infringement of dignity. Inviolability of mission achieved and documents Article 24. Mission achievers and documents are involved even outside mission premises. The host country cannot seize, inspect or use them in legal proceeding. Free communication Article 27. Diplomats mission has the right to free and unrestricted communication with their sending state by all appropriate means. Diplomatic bag carrying communication cannot be opened or detained. Diplomatic immunity Article 29 and 31. The person of diplomats is inviolable and they cannot be arrested or detained. Diplomats enjoy immunity from civil and criminal jurisdiction of the host country with specific exceptions. टैक्स एग्जम्पशन क्या है, तो आर्टिकल 34 एंड 36, डिप्लोमेट आर exempt from taxes on income and most personal items. Diplomatic missions are exempt from custom duties or import of for official use. The limited immunity of national and permanent residents. Article 38. National and permanent residents of the host country employed by diplomatic mission enjoy limited immunity only for official act. अगला है इंडिया ऑस्ट्रेलिया 2+2 टॉक्स। तो इसे हम लोग अगले वीडियो लेक्चर में करेंगे। इस वीडियो लेक्चर को यहीं पर समाप्त करते हैं। उम्मीद है आपको ये वीडियो पसंद आया होगा। तो आपको कमेंट सेक्शन में जरूर बताएंगे आपको हमारी ये पहल कैसी लग रही है, आप इससे कितने लाभान्वित हो रहे हैं। वीडियो को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर करें उन लोगों तक जो इस बार का यूपीएससी प्री देने वाला है, ताकि वो भी करंट अफेयर में अपने आप को बहुत अच्छा महसूस करा सके और एग्जाम में क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर सके। और अगर आप लोग हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं और अभी तक हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो प्लीज़ 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 इसे सब्सक्राइब करके हमें सपोर्ट करें, क्योंकि आपके सपोर्ट की हमें बहुत आवश्यकता पड़ती है और इससे हमें लाभ होता है। तो मिलते हैं आपसे अगले वीडियो लेक्चर में। तब तक के लिए वीडियो को देखते रहे, रिवाइज करते रहे। जय हिंद, जय भारत। जय हिंद दोस्तों, फिर से आपका स्वागत है हमारे वाजीराम एंड रवि के प्रीलिम्स की रिवीजन सीरीज में। यह पार्ट 1 है जो 2024 में है। जो आप लोग जानते थे एग्जाम 26 मई 2024 को होने वाला था, मगर अब डेट पोस्टपोन्ड हो गया है। अब 16 जून 2024 को होने वाला है। तो आइए हम देखते हैं आगे की सीरीज़ को जहाँ हम लोगों ने छोड़ा था। तो यह कंटिन्यू सीरीज, अगर आप लोगों ने पहले के वीडियो लेक्चर्स नहीं देखे तो लिंक में डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में डाल दूंगा, आप लोग जाइए उसे चेक कीजिए। हम लोग इंटरनेशनल रिलेशन में पढ़ रहे थे और इंटरनेशनल रिलेशन में ही आगे हम लोग कंटिन्यू करने वाले हैं। तो आप लोग से बस ये अनुरोध है कि अगर आप लोग हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं और अभी तक हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो प्लीज़ 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 इसे सब्सक्राइब करके हमें सपोर्ट करें, क्योंकि आपके सपोर्ट की हमें बहुत आवश्यकता पड़ती है और इससे हम प्रोत्साहित होकर और अच्छे अच्छे वीडियो आपके लिए बना कर लाते हैं। वीडियो को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर करें उन लोगों तक जो इस बार का यूपीएससी प्री देने वाले हैं, या फिर 70th बीपीएससी देने वाले, या फिर यूपी पीसीएस देने वाले, उन तक इस वीडियो को जरूर पहुँचाएं, क्योंकि करंट अफेयर का सेक्शन हर पीसीएस में काम आता है और यह काफ़ी ज़्यादा लाभदायक है। तो आइए शुरू करते हैं आज के हमारे टॉपिक को, जहाँ हम लोगों ने पिछले बार छोड़ा था। तो पिछले लेक्चर में हम लोगों ने वियना कन्वेंशन देख लिया था। आज हम लोग शुरू करने वाले हैं इंडिया ऑस्ट्रेलिया 2+2 टॉक्स। शुरू करने से पहले फिर से आपसे अनुरोध रहेगा कि अगर आप लोग हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं और अभी तक हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो प्लीज़ 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 इसे सब्सक्राइब करके हमें सपोर्ट करें और कमेंट बॉक्स में जरूर बताएंगे आपको हमारी ये पहल कैसी लग रही है। आइए शुरू करते हैं। इंडिया ऑस्ट्रेलिया 2+2 टॉक। डिफेंस मिनिस्टर राजनाथ सिंह इंगेज्ड इन बायलैटरल टॉक विद ऑस्ट्रेलियन डिप्टी प्राइम मिनिस्टर एंड डिफेंस मिनिस्टर रिचर्ड माल्स इन New Delhi. The 2+2 dialogue is a format of meeting of the foreign and defense ministers of India and its alliance on strategic and security issues. 2+2 talks between India and allies. India has 2+2 dialogue with 5 key strategic partners. The US started in 2018, Australia started in 2021, Japan started in 2019 and Russia started in 2021 and UK started in 2023. Recently UK का शुरू हुआ है। Besides Russia, other 3 countries are also India's partner in Quad. अगला है इंडिया यूएस वर्क ऑन पैक्ट फॉर क्विक रिटर्न ऑफ स्टोलन एंटिक्विटीज। इंडिया इज क्लोज टू साइनिंग एन एग्रीमेंट, द कल्चरल प्रॉपर्टी एग्रीमेंट CPA विद द यूनाइटेड स्टेट, अंडर विच द प्रोसेस फॉर द रिटर्न ऑफ स्टोलन एंटिक्विटीज विल बी ह्यूजली सिंप्लीफाइड। व्हाट इज एंटिक्विटी? एंटिक्विटी है क्या? द एंटिक्विटी आर आर्ट ट्रेजर एक्ट AATA 1972 defines antiquity as any coin, sculpture, painting, epigraph or other work of art or craftsmanship that has been in existence for not less than 100 years. For a manuscript, record and other document which is of scientific, historical, literary or aesthetic value, this duration is not less than 75 years. The UNESCO 1970 Convention defines cultural property as the one designated by countries having importance for archaeology, prehistory, history, literature, art और science. Evolution of law after independence. कैसे कैसे लॉ का evolution हुआ. All the union, state and concurrent list of the 7th schedule of Indian Constitution deal with the country's heritage. The Ancient Monument and Archaeological Site and Remains Act was enacted in 1958 and a few incidents of theft of antiquities prompt the government to enact the AATA 1972. Salient features of the AATA 1972 क्या क्या है? तो no person other than the central government can export any antiquity or art treasure. No person can carry on the business of selling any antiquity except in accordance with the term and condition of a license granted by ASI. Every person who owns, control, or in possession of any antiquity shall register such antiquity and obtain a certificate. How are artifacts of Indian origin repatriated? Presently, once an artifact of Indian origin is located in a foreign country, its provenance has to be established through documents such as FIRs or pictorial evidence. The objects are then verified by the Archaeological Survey of India (ASI), the custodian of all antiquity in the host country before they can be brought back home. A team of experts from the ASI visit the country and verifies the object on the basis of their knowledge, iconography, and wear and tear marks. There is no time limit for this process. I'll have background of the Cultural Property Agreement (CPA). Sorry. Over the last few years, India has placed a renewed emphasis on repeat, repatriation of its heritage, with the Indian PM raising the issue with various world leaders and multilateral agencies during his foreign visit. According to the government data, over 400 antiquities have been brought back in India since 2014. Once a country makes a request for an agreement, the request is considered by the White House appointed Cultural Property Advisory Committee, which makes a recommendation to the Department of State. The next step for India is to have its request considered before this committee. अगला है Cultural Property Agreement (CPA). The agreement imposes import restrictions that stop looted and stolen cultural property from entering the US while encouraging the legal sharing for such objects for scientific, cultural, and education purposes. How do the import restrict work? As per the agreement, the US will intercept smuggled goods at the border and return them expeditiously. When objects are seized and fortified under import restriction, there is a simplified process for returning object to the partner country. The partner country does not have to prove the item is there. Rather, the US authority offers it to them for return. अगला अखौरा अगरतला रेल लिंक अखौरा अगरतला रेल लिंक तो PM नरेंद्र मोदी and Bangladesh PM Sheikh Hasina virtually inaugurated a rail link connecting northeast India with Bangladesh. Akhora Agartala line is a railway line between India and Bangladesh. It links Bangladesh Akhora through an international immigration station at Nishinthapur or to the outskirts of Agartala, capital of Tripura. The length of the rail link is 12.24 km with a 6.78 km dual gauge rail link in Bangladesh and 5.46 km in Tripura. This rail link is a part of 16 transit routes that have been declared allowing cargo transportation from Chittagong or Mongla port in Bangladesh to Indian state. Funding partner क्या है? The project is wholly funded by the Government of India. The Ministry for Development of Northeast Region (DONER) funded the work on the Indian side, while Ministry of External Affairs funded the expense for Bangladesh side. अगला US China Summit. The Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation (APEC) grouping meet in San Francisco in the United States. About Asia Pacific Economic Corridor क्या है? The Asia Pacific Economic Corridor Cooperation is a region economic formed and was formed in 1989. Aim of the grouping क्या है? तो leverage the grouping independence of the Asia Pacific and create greater prosperity for the people of the region through regional economic integration. The focus of APEC has been on trade and economic issues, and hence its term the countries as economies. It has been operating on the basis of non-binding committee with decisions that taken through commitments and consensus undertaken on a voluntary basis. Member country क्या है? तो currently APEC has 21 members. The criterion of membership, however, is that each member must be an independent economic entity rather than a sovereign state. The grouping current members are Australia, Brunei, Hong Kong, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Philippines, Indonesia, China, Japan, South Korea, Russia, Canada, United States, Mexico, Peru, Chile, Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore, Thailand and Taiwan. India is not a member of this group. आप लोग मैप में देखिए, यहाँ पे जो कलर्ड है वो मेंबर्ड है, और जो कलर्ड नहीं है वो मेंबर नहीं है। देखिए जो कलर्ड है वो डेट वाइज दिया हुआ है, कौन सा डेट पे कब मेंबर हुआ था। आइए आगे देखते हैं। इंडिया ओमान अडॉप्ट विजन डॉक्यूमेंट टू एक्सपैंड टाइज। The Sultanate of Oman is a strategic partner of India and an important in interlocutor of Gulf Cooperation Council (GCC), Arab League and Indian Ocean Rim Association (IORA) fora. Diplomatic relation was established in 1955 and the relationship was updated to a strategic partnership in 2008. The Indian Navy has breathing right in Oman and has used the port to conduct anti-piracy operation in the Gulf of Aden. In Australia, 2022, a 13-day joint military exercise Al-Najah 4 was held in Rajasthan. Next is French President to be chief guest this Republic. French President Emmanuel Macron will visit India as chief guest for the 75th Republic Day celebration. This will be sixth time a French leader will be the chief guest at the R-Day celebration. India-France bilateral relation. Since the establishment of diplomatic ties in 1948, India and France has enjoyed 75 years of close and friendly relation. In 1998, India and France elevated their diplomatic relation to a strategic partnership which completed 25 years in January 2023. Defense cooperation. The agreement on defense cooperation signed in 2006 and renewed for another 10 years in 2016 gives the framework for all defense cooperation activities between India and France. Civil nuclear cooperation. An agreement on civil nuclear cooperation was signed between India and France in 2008. यहाँ पे देखते हैं significance of India inviting French president for the 75th Republic Day celebration. क्या इसका significance है? So in New Delhi, the choice of guest has been guided by a set of imperatives, strategic and diplomatic blending business, global geopolitics and bilateral engagement. This year, both are celebrating 25th anniversary of the India-France strategic partnership. The Indian PM was the guest of honor at the Bristol Day parade held in 14 July 2023 in Paris. French President Macron visited India for the G20 summit on 8-9 September 2023. In 2022, the Indian PM had made a stopover in Paris on his way back from Denmark to meet President Macron, thus becoming the first world leader to meet the French president after he won his second term. Thus, India's invitation to France signals and reinforcement the depth of bilateral relationship. अगला है आर्टिकल 99 ऑफ द यूएन चार्टर. क्या है? The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres used a rarely used power to warn the Security Council of a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. He urged the members to demand an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. He invoked Article 99 of the UN Charter, a diplomatic tool that allows the UN head to raise issues that may threaten international peace and security. Past use of Article 99. The provision has already rarely invoked. It only been invoked 4 times in the past: in Congo 1960, East Pakistan 1971, Iran 1979, and Lebanon 1989. The article was initially designed as a preventative tool, a bit like a warning system. Its use was meant to deter conflict for escalating. Power of Article 99 to end the conflict. Article 99 gives the power to the Secretary General to call a meeting of the Security Council on the important issue which may threaten international peace and security. However, it does not give the Secretary General any power to force the Security Council to adopt a resolution. Hence, he can force a discussion. He can bring the parties together and encourage them to react some kind of compromise. But because of the veto, the only way the Security Council can adopt a substantive resolution on the issue is for each of the 5 permanent members to choose not to veto it. to be adopted, a resolution need at least 9 votes in favor and no votes by the 5 permanent members. China, Russia, the US, the UK and France hold this veto power. आर्टिकल 99 ऑफ यूएन चार्टर देख लेते हैं क्या है। तो बैकग्राउंड इसका क्या है। तो यूएन चार्टर इज द फाउंडिंग डॉक्यूमेंट ऑफ द यूनाइटेड नेशन बेस्ड ऑन द पावर कॉन्फर्ड थ्रू इट द यूएन कैन टेक एक्शन ऑन अ वाइड वेराइटी ऑफ इशूज. द चार्टर इज कंसिडर्ड एन इंटरनेशनल ट्रीटी मीनिंग यूएन member states are bound by it. However, in practice, this is little that member countries can be forced to do. आर्टिकल 99 क्या है। तो आर्टिकल 99 ऑफ द यूएन चार्टर इज अ स्पेशल पॉलिटिकल टूल दैट अलाउज द यूएन सिक्योरिटी जनरल टू कॉल अ मीटिंग ऑफ द सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल. द सिक्योरिटी जनरल कैन यूज दिस टूल टू ब्रिंग टू द सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल अटेंशन एनी मैटर दैट दे बिलीव मे थ्रेटन इंटरनेशनल पीस एंड सिक्योरिटी. फीचर्स क्या है। तो आर्टिकल 99 इज द ओनली इंडिपेंडेंट पॉलिटिकल टूल गिवन टू द सिक्योरिटी जनरल इन द यूएन चार्टर. इट इज सीन एज द डिस्क्रिशनरी पावर. According to the UN, the President of the Security Council is under the obligation to call a meeting of the Council if the Security General brings to the attention of the Council any matter under Article 99. अगला न्यूज़ है US launches multinational push to safeguard Red Sea commerce. In the light of recent ship hijacking incident led by Yemeni Houthis rebel, the US Defense Security has announced the creation of multilateral operation to safeguard commerce in Red Sea. India is not a part of this operation. Red Sea क्या। तो Red Sea is a narrow strip of water extending southeast from Suez, Egypt to the Bab el Mandab Strait. Bab el Mandab Strait connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Gulf of Aden via the Red Sea and Suez Canal. The Red Sea separates the coast of Egypt, Sudan, Eritrea from those of Saudi Arabia and Yemen. The route is vital for 30% of global कंटेनर ट्रैफिक. यहाँ पे आप लोग रेड सी देख सकते हैं, सुइज कनाल है, बब अलमेदन है, फिर पर्शियन गल्फ देख सकते हैं, स्ट्रेट ऑफ हार्मूज है वहाँ पे. हौती क्या है। तो अबाउट में देख लेते हैं. द हौतीज आर अ Shiite Muslim sect and political and military organization that engages in Yemen, which is predominantly Sunni. In the 1990s, named after the Houthi tribe, they are Ziyadi Shians. Ziyadism is a subsect of Shia Islam, and it believes in following the lineage of the Prophet Muhammad's family as the political leader of the state. The Houthis are also known as Ansar Allah, which translate to supporter of God. Involvement in civil war of Yemen. The Houthis are one side of Yemeni civil war that has raged for nearly a decade. Yemen civil war began in 2014 when Houthis insurgents took control over Yemen's capital and largest city, Sana'a. By early 2015, Saudi Arabia, along with the Gulf State and with US support, was launching a strike against the Houthis, who are backed by Iran. A ceasefire was finally signed in 2022. It lapsed after 6 months, but the warning parties haven't returned to full-scale conflict. अगला है रीजनल ओवरव्यू ऑफ फूड सिक्योरिटी एंड न्यूट्रिशन. The Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO) of the United States has launched the Asia Pacific Regional Overview of Food Security and Nutrition 2023, Statistics and Trend. The report is a glimpse on the process in meeting Sustainable Development Goal (SDGs) and World Health Assembly (WHA) Global Nutrition Target. Key findings क्या है। The prevalence of undernutrition in the Asia and the Pacific region decreased to 8.4% in 2022 from 8.8% of the previous year. With 370.7 million undernutritioned people, the Asia Pacific region represents half of the world undernutritioned person. Women across the sub-region, except for East Asia, trained to be more food insecure than men. Stunning among children under 5 years of age, with a prevalence of 23.4%, continues to be a public health problem in the region despite the declining trend from 2000. Indonesia's Marapi volcano eruption. The recent eruption, Mount Marapi, Indonesia, was the deadliest since 1979. Mount Marapi is a volcanic mountain peak located near the center of the island of Java, Indonesia. It is located on Sumatra, the westernmost and third largest of Indonesia's 18,000 island. It stands 2,891 meter high. Mount Marpi, which means Mountain of Fire, is among the most active of Indonesia's 157 volcanoes and is the popular among hikers. The Indonesian archipelago site on the so-called Pacific Ring of Fire, where the meeting of continental plates cause high volcanic and seismic activity. अगला इंडिया रशिया साइन पैक्ट ऑन फ्यूचर यूनिट्स ऑफ कदनकुल्लम प्लांट. India and Russia signed agreement related to the construction of future power generating unit of the Kadamkullam nuclear power plant. The Kadamkullam nuclear power plant is being built in Tamil Nadu with technical assistance of Russia. The construction began in March 2022. Since February 2016, the first power unit of Kadankullam NPP has been steadily operating at its design capacity of 1000 megawatt. The plant is expected to start operating at full capacity in 2027. अगला है समिट्स एंड ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस. इसमें पहला है इंडिया पैसिफिक इकोनॉमिक फ्रेमवर्क IPEF. तो इसमें देख लेते हैं क्या है. तो इंडिया इज learn to have asked for better market access in order to be a part of trade parallel of the IPET India Pacific Economic Framework. India has an observer status on the trade pillar negotiation. Members क्या है. तो IPEF has 14 partner countries including Australia, Brunei, Fiji, India, Indonesia, Japan, Republic of Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, and the US. India and IPEP. In September 2022, India joined three pillars of the IPEP. These are supply chain, decarbonization, and infrastructure, and tax and anti-corruption pillar. However, it has decided to remain out of the trade pillar. Origin कैसे हुआ. तो US President Biden first spoke about the IPEF at the October 2021 East Asia Summit. At this summit, he said that United States will explore with partners the development of IPEP. This framework will define our shared objective around trade, facilitation, standard of the digital economy and technology, supply chain resiliency, decarbonization, and clean energy infrastructure, worker standard, and other area of shared interest. The IPEF will not include market access commitment such as lowering tariff barrier, as the agreement is more of an administrative agreement. थर्ड इकोनॉमिक एंड चाइना. तो यहाँ पर देख लेते हैं कौन सा कंट्री का इकोनॉमी कितना बड़ा है. नेक्स्ट इज अबाउट. लॉन्च इन टोक्यो इन मई 2023, IPEF एम टू स्ट्रेंथन इकोनॉमिक इंगेजमेंट among the member countries to advance growth, peace, and prosperity in the region. According to an insight paper of IPEF put by the US Congressional Research Service, the IPEF is not a traditional trade agreement. Rather, it would include different modules, 4 pillar covering various aspects. 4 pillar of IPEF क्या है. तो pillar 1 fair and resilient trade, pillar 2 supply chain resilience, pillar 3 infrastructure and decarbonization, pillar 4 tax and anti-corruption. Countries would have to sign up to all the components within a module pillar but do not have to participate in all modules. अगला है UN Nation Forum on Forest. The 18th session of United Nations Forum on Forest UNFF 18 held in New York. United Nations Forum on Forest UNFF is a high-level intergovernmental policy forum established in 2000 by the UN Economic and Social Council ECOSOC. It has universal membership and is composed of all member states of the United Nations. The UNFF collaborates closely with other international processes and conventions such as Convention on Biological Diversity CBD, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change UNFCCC, and the Sustainable Development Goal SDGs. The UNFF operates through a 2-year cycle known as multi-year program of work MYPOW. Hence, the UN Strategic Plan for Forest 2017 से 2030 has adopted a set of 6 global forest goals and 26 associated targets to be reached by 2030. यूएन इकोनॉमिक एंड सोशल काउंसिल CECOSOC क्या है? तो द यूएन चार्टर established ECOSOC in 1945 as one of the six main organ of the United Nations. Members क्या है? The council consists of 54 member states which are elected yearly by the General Assembly for overlapping 3-year terms. Seats of the council are allotted based on geographical representation with 14 allotted to African states, 18 to Asian states, 6 to Eastern European states, 10 to Latin American and Caribbean states and 13 to Western Europe and other states. Mandate क्या है? तो it is a central platform for fostering debate and innovative thinking, forging consensus on way forward, and coordinating efforts to achieve internationally agreed goals. It is also responsible for the follow-up to major UN conference and summit. Global forest goals क्या है? तो the UN strategic plan for forest 2017 से 30 has adopted a set of 6 global forest goal and 26 associated target to be reached by 2030. Goal 1. Reserve the loss of forest cover worldwide through sustainable forest management including protection, restoration, afforestation and reforestation. Goal 2 क्या है? Enhance forest based economic, social and environmental benefit including by improving the livelihood of forest development people. Third है Goal 3. Increase significantly the area of protected forest worldwide and the other areas of sustainably managed forest. Goal 4. Mobilize significantly increased new and additional financial resource from all sources for the implementation of sustainable forest management and strengthen scientific and technical cooperation and partnership. Goal 5 है promote governance framework to implement sustainable forest management including through the UN National Forest Instrument and enhance the contribution of forest to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Goal 6 है enhance cooperation, coordination, coherence and synergies on forest related issues at all levels including with the United Nations system and across member organizations of the collaborative partnership on forest. अगला न्यूज़ है वर्ल्ड मेट्रोलॉजिकल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन द WMO released two report titled Global Annual to Decadal Climate Update 2023-27 and State of Global Climate 2022. The WMO has approved a new greenhouse gas GHG monitoring initiative Global Greenhouse Gas Watch G3W. About Global Greenhouse Gas Watch G3W क्या है? It aims to establish internationally coordinated monitoring of greenhouse gas flux top-down to support the provision of UNFCCC parties and other stakeholders. It will bring all space-based and surface-based observing system as well as modeling and data assimilation capabilities under one roof. The system will provide sustained delivery of monthly global estimates of net GHG flux into and out of the atmosphere at the 100 by 100 kilometer resolution. About WMO, headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, and India is a member. It is an intergovernmental organization with a membership of 193 member states and territories. It originated from the International Meteorological Organization IMO, which was established after the 1873 Vienna International Meteorological Congress. अगला है थर्ड फोरम ऑफ इंडिया पैसिफिक आइलैंड कॉरपोरेशन FIPIC summit. Recently, PM Modi paid his maiden visit to Papua New Guinea, where he co-hosted the third FIPIC summit. Forum for Indo-Pacific Island Cooperation (FIPIC) is a multinational grouping for cooperation between India and 14 Pacific Island nations. It includes 14 island nations: Cook Islands, Fuji, Kiribati, Marshall Island, Micronesia, Niue, Soma, Solam Island, Palau, Papua New Guinea, Tonga, Tuvalu, and Vanuatu. All head of state या head of government of the above countries met in Suba, Fiji in November 2014 for the first time, where the annual summit was conceptualized. The FIPIC initiative makes a serious effort to expand India's engagement in the Pacific region. About Pacific Island Nation. Islands of the Pacific Ocean are commonly named as Pacific Island Nation. As shown in the map, Pacific island nation consists of three major groups of islands named as Polynesia, Micronesia, and Melanesia. North of equator and east of the Philippines are the island of Micronesia. The Great Arc of Island allocated north and east of Australia and south of equator is called Melanesia. In the eastern Pacific, largely enclosed with a huge triangle formed by the Hawaiian Island to the north, New Zealand to the southwest, and East India, Rapa Nui far to the east are the island of Polynesia. तो आप लोग यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं पिंक कलर में मोलिनेशिया, ब्लू कलर में मेलिनेशिया और पर्पल कलर में पोलिनेशिया। न्यूजीलैंड पोलिनेशिया ग्रुप में आता है। नेक्स्ट है क्वाड समिट 2023। पीएम ऑफ ऑस्ट्रेलिया, पीएम ऑफ इंडिया, पीएम ऑफ जापान एंड प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ यूनाइटेड स्टेट मेट फॉर द थर्ड इन पर्सन क्वाड लीडर समिट। की हाईलाइट ऑफ क्वाड समिट 2023 क्या है? तो स्टेटमेंट रिलीज। द लीडर इशूड अ जॉइंट विजन स्टेटमेंट टाइटल्ड enduring partner for Indo-Pacific, the Quad International Standard Cooperation Network and the Quad Principle on Critical and Engaging Technology Standard were released. India to host next Quad Summit. PM Modi announced that the next Quad leader meeting would be held in India in 2024. The Quad leader announced they would now pursue a border Quad health security partnership rather than the earlier Quad vaccine partnership for COVID-19 vaccine. Maritime domain क्या है? They noted progress on the Indo-Pacific Partnership for Maritime Domain Awareness (IPMDA) to help curb illicit maritime activity, illegal fishing, and humanitarian disaster. Quad Investor Network (QUIN) क्या है? तो the leaders welcome the launch of the private sector-led Quad Investors Network (QUIN). QUIN aim to facilitate investment in strategic technologies, including clear energy, semiconductor, critical minerals, and quantum. अगला है I2U2. I2U2 is a diplomatic group of India, Israel, UAE, and United States. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has used the I2U2 moniker for the fourth member grouping. The grouping was launched in October 2021 when the first virtual meeting of the foreign minister of India, Israel, USA, and UK took place. The new grouping is described as an international forum for economic cooperation. This grouping is already been termed as a new Quad of the Mediterranean East. अगला G7 Hiroshima Summit. The leader of the group of 7 G7 meet in Hiroshima for 49th annual summit. तो G7 में कौन कौन सा है देख लीजिए एक बार। कनाडा है, यूके है, यूएसए है, फ्रांस है, जापान है, इटली है, जर्मनी है और यूरोपियन यूनियन है। ऑन यूक्रेन commended in the strongest possible term the war of aggression by Russia against Ukraine. On disarmament and non-proliferation, the summit also released the G7 leaders' Hiroshima vision on nuclear disarmament. On debt sustainability, supported the G20 effort to improve the implementation of the Common Framework for Debt Testament beyond the Debt Service Supervision Initiative (DSSI). DSSI means that bilateral officer creditor are during the limited period suspending debt service payment from the poorest countries that require the supervision. It welcomed the development of climate resilient debt clauses (CRDC) to enhance the safety net for borrower facing the impact on climate change. Arab League foreign minister voted a redmant Syria into the organization after supervision that lasted over decade. Arab League क्या है? तो Arab League is an intergovernmental organization (IGO), a voluntary association of independent African and Mediterranean Middle East countries whose people are mainly Arabic speaking. It was formed in 1945 to promote cooperation and coordination among Arab countries. It is headquartered at Cairo, Egypt. Member state क्या है? तो Arab League currently has 22 member states including Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Yemen, and the Palestine Authority. The league also has several observer countries including Brazil, Eritrea, India, and Venezuela. अगला 6th Indian Ocean Conference. The 6th edition of the Indian Ocean Conference (IOC) was held by India Foundation is association with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Bangladesh, and S. Rajaratham School of International Studies. The two-day India-Ocean Conference with the theme Peace, Prosperity and Partnership for the Resilient Future was organized in Dhaka. About Indian Ocean Conference, IOC क्या है तो IOC is an annual international conference that focus on geopolitical, economic and strategic importance of the Indian Ocean region. The conference bring together policy makers, scholars, business leaders and civil society representatives to discuss issues related to security, trade and cooperation in the Indian Ocean region. The first edition of the conference was held in Singapore in 2016. The fifth edition of IOC was organized in 2021 in Abu Dhabi, UAE, organized by India Foundation in partnership with other organizations in the region. अगला business climate ranking. The World Bank has unveiled new methodology and improved safeguard called Business Ready for assessing the business climate in up to 180 countries. A pilot edition of the new replacement annual series called Business Ready will be published in the spring of 2024. It will cover an initial group of 54 economic in Asia, Latin America, Europe and Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa. About ease of doing business ranking. The ease of doing business index was an index created by World Bank Group following the release of World Development Report 2002. The 10 parameter of which ranking was based: starting a business, dealing with construction permit, electricity availability, property registration, credit availability, protecting minority investors, paying tax, trading across border, contract enforcement, and resolving insolvency. It ranks countries on the basis of distance on frontier DTT secure that highlights the gap of an economy with respect to the global best practices. For example, a score of 75 means an economy was 25% point away from its frontier, constructed from the best performance across all countries and across time. The World Bank discontinued the practice of issuing doing business report following the investigation report data irregularities in its 2018 and 2020 edition. WHO launched global network to detect infectious disease threat. The World Health Organization has launched a global network known as International Pathogen Surveillance Network (IPSC). IPSC is a global network of pathogen genomic actors which is hosted by the WHO Hub for Pandemic and Epidemic Intelligence. It is its aim is to accelerate progress on the deployment of pathogen genomic and improve public health decision making. It will support ongoing disease surveillance and will help detect and fully characterize new disease threat before they become epidemic or pandemic. Areas of work क्या है तो set of communities and practice that enable exchange between partners working on pathogen genomes. A country scale up accelerator CSUA to accelerate and amplify the efforts of IPSC members to rapidly increase country capacity for pathogen genomic surveillance, funding to improve equity and to power IPSC project. 76th World Health Assembly. Prime Minister Narendra Modi virtually addressed the 76th World Health Assembly in Geneva. The World Health Assembly is a decision-making body of World Health Organization (WHO). It is attended by delegation from all WHO member states and focuses on a specific health agenda prepared by the executive board. The Health Assembly is held annually in Geneva, Switzerland. CAG chief re-elected and external auditor of WHO for 2024-27. Girish Chandra Murmu, the contemporary and comparator and Auditor General of India (CAG), has been re-elected as the external auditor of the World Health Organization (WHO) for the 4-year term from 2024 to 2027. The CAG is already holding this position in the WHO since 2019 for a 4-year term from 2019 से 23. The re-election was held at the 76th World Health Assembly in Geneva. Besides the WHO, the CAG of India is currently the external auditor of इंटरनेशनल लेबर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन 2024 से 27, द फूड एंड एग्रीकल्चर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन 2020 से 25, इंटरनेशनल एटॉमिक एनर्जी एजेंसी 2022 से 27 और ऑर्गेनाइजेशन फॉर प्रोहिबिशन ऑफ केमिकल वेपन 2021 से 23। द कैग इज अ मेंबर ऑफ यूनाइटेड नेशन पैनल ऑन एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटर। अगला न्यूज़ है, ग्लोबल एजेंसी एफिलिएटेड टू द यूएन राइट्स बॉडी डिफेंस NHRC accreditation. For the second time in a row, the Global Alliance for National Human Rights Institution GANHRI has reaffirmed the re-accreditation of the National Human Rights Commission NHRC of India for a year. Without the accreditation, NHRC will not be able to represent India at the UN Human Rights Council. GANHRI is an organization affiliated to the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. It brings together and supports national human rights institutions to promote and protect human rights. Accreditation by the GANHRI in a unique peer review based accreditation process. GANHRI ensures individual NHRI's compliance with internationally reorganized standards, the Paris Principle, to ensure their independence, pluralism, and accountability. The Paris Principle set out internationally agreed minimum standard that NHRI must meet to consider creditable. The sixth principle require a country's human rights agency to be independent for the government in its structure, composition, decision making, and method of operation. The principle was adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1993. NHRIS that are assessed as complying with the Paris Principle are accredited with A status, while those that partially comply are accredited with B status. India's NHRC got A status of accreditation for the first time in 1999, which is retained in 2006, 2011 and in 2017 after it was deferred for a year. UNESCO. The United Nations has announced its plans to rejoin the UNESCO after a decade-long dispute sparked by the inclusion of Palestine as a member. About United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization. UNESCO is a member of United Nations Sustainable Development Goal (UNSDG). It has 193 members and 11 associate members as of April 2023 and is governed by the General Conference and the Executive Board. It was founded on 16 नवंबर 1945. स्ट्रक्चर क्या है तो जिनेवा कॉन्फ्रेंस सुप्रीम गवर्निंग बॉडी मीट एवरी 2 years एंड सेट प्रोग्राम प्रायोरिटीज इलेक्ट्स एग्जीक्यूटिव बोर्ड में क्या है तो इम्प्लीमेंट्स जनरल कॉन्फ्रेंस डिसीजन ओवरसीज प्रोग्राम मीट्स 4 times a year. सेक्रेटेरिएट क्या है तो हेड ऑफ डायरेक्टर जनरल प्रोवाइड्स एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एंड टेक्निकल सपोर्ट इम्प्लीमेंट्स प्रोग्राम. फील्ड ऑफिसेस सर्व एज रीजनल हब सपोर्ट प्रोग्राम इम्प्लीमेंटेशन इन स्पेसिफिक कंट्रीज. नेशनल कमीशन क्या है तो लिंक बिटवीन यूनेस्को एंड मेंबर स्टेट प्रमोट यूनेस्कोज गोल्स एट द नेशनल लेवल. मेंबर्स क्या है तो 195 मेंबर्स स्टेट एज ऑफ 2023. हेडक्वार्टर पेरिस में है. मैंडेट क्या है तो प्रमोट पीस एंड सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट थ्रू एजुकेशन, साइंस, कल्चर एंड कम्युनिकेशन. इंश्योर क्वालिटी एजुकेशन फॉर ऑल. द इनक्यून डिक्लेरेशन सर्व एज द ब्लूप्रिंट फॉर रियलाइजिंग द ग्लोबल एजुकेशन गोल्स सेट forth in the education 2023 agenda. Advanced scientific research and knowledge sharing via initiative like International Geoscience and Global Geopeak Program. Protect cultural heritage and promote cultural diversity. Build bridges between culture and promote dialogue. Creative Cities Network launched in UNESCO in 2004. Funding क्या तो UNESCO's work is funded through voluntary contribution from member state and other sources. It partnered with government, NGOs and private sector organizations to implement its program. Key report by UNESCO क्या है तो Global Education Monitoring Report, the United Nations World Water Development Report, World Trend on Freedom of Expansion and Media Export, Global Ocean Science Report. अगला संघाई कोऑपरेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. तो इसे हम लोग अगले वीडियो लेक्चर में करेंगे. इस वीडियो लेक्चर को वहीं पर समाप्त करते हैं. मिलते हैं आपसे अगले वीडियो लेक्चर में. तब तक के लिए आप रिवाइज करते रहें वीडियो को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर करें, और अगर आप लोग हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं और अभी तक हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो प्लीज़ 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 इसे सब्सक्राइब करके हमें सपोर्ट करें, क्योंकि आपके सपोर्ट की हमें बहुत आवश्यकता पड़ती है और इसी से हम और भी प्रोत्साहित होकर नए नए वीडियोज़ आपके लिए बनाकर लाते हैं। तो आप बस वीडियो को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा रिवाइज़ करें, जितना ज़्यादा बार देखेंगे उतना ही अच्छा आपका करंट अफेयर का रिवीजन होगा और उतना ही अच्छा आप एग्ज़ाम में परफॉर्म कर पाएंगे। तो मिलते हैं आपसे अगले वीडियो लेक्चर में, तब तक के लिए वीडियो को रिवाइज़ करें, देखते रहें, और अगर आप लोग हमारे चैनल पर नए हैं तो सब्सक्राइब करें। तो मिलते हैं आपसे अगले वीडियो लेक्चर में, तब तक के लिए जय हिंद, जय भारत।